All right, let's dive into something that's incredibly personal and, honestly, just really painful. We're going to talk about that messy intersection where social media, marriage, and trust just completely collide. We'll be looking at that whole journey, from the moment of suspicion and heartbreak to maybe, just maybe, finding a way to get some clarity. This right here really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? It's this powerful idea that something we just brush off as harmless, I mean, it's just pixels on a screen, right? Can quietly worm its way into our minds, start training our desires, and end up feeling like a massive betrayal in the most important relationship of our lives. So, where does this lead? Well, it often brings you to this incredibly confusing and painful place that so many people face after they discover a digital betrayal. It's what we can call the performance of change. It feels like you're lost in a maze where what you can see with your eyes and what you're feeling in your gut are two completely different realities. Right. So after you discover something, you hear the words, "I've changed." But what does that actually mean? What does it look like? Usually, what you get is a list of actions. It becomes this sort of proof, a checklist that's supposed to make you feel better, to prove the problem is solved and we can all just go back to normal. And take a look at this list. Notice something? Every single one of these things is tangible. It's visible. Friends, family, even he himself can point to this list and say, see, I'm making an effort. I'm doing all the right things. And yeah, on the surface, it really does look like progress. But here's the massive disconnect. Here's the problem. Those visible actions are fighting against a totally invisible reality. So while he's deleting apps, you're living with this constant churning anxiety. While he's being a great dad, you're wrestling with the pain of what happened. This creates this huge gap that's so isolating, and it just sucks the peace right out of the home, the very peace that children need to grow. And this, of course, leads to the pressure from the outside, your friends, your family. They only see that checklist of visible actions. They can't see what's going on inside you. So pretty soon, the burden gets shifted. Suddenly, it's on you to compromise, to just get over it. You even get told you need to become his guard, as if his morality is now your full-time job. So this gap between what's seen and what's felt, it leads us straight to the absolute core of the conflict. It's this impossible task of trying to measure something that you literally cannot see. Now, to really understand this, we need to touch on this concept, nazar ki khayanat, or the treachery of the gaze. The idea here is that disloyalty doesn't just pop up out of nowhere with a big physical act. Nope. It starts much, much smaller. It starts with the eyes. It starts with those private little choices about what you watch, what you consume online, that endless scrolling that slowly poisons the mind and changes what you expect from life. And this brings us to such a critical insight. Loyalty is not a performance. It's not a show you put on for other people. It's not about checking off boxes. It's what's happening on the inside. It's reflected in those thousands of tiny private choices you make when you think nobody is watching you, especially when you're on your phone. And here it is, the central, impossible question. If real loyalty, real integrity is an internal quality, something you can't see, something in the heart, then how in the world can you ask for external, tangible proof of it? The honest answer? You can't. This is the paradox that just fuels all that anxiety. Think about it. He could delete every single app from his phone, but does that really prove he's changed on the inside? Not necessarily. And on the flip side, someone else could use social media and be completely and totally loyal. The outside behavior just isn't a reliable yardstick for the internal quality you're so desperately searching for. So you see, the real issue here goes so much deeper than just his actions. It's that the two of you might be operating from completely different rule books. For you, watching certain things online is a betrayal, plain and simple. But for him, hey, it might just be a harmless way to unwind after a long day. And that clash of principles, that's why you keep having the same argument over and over again. Okay, so if you can't control or measure what's going on inside his head, where does that leave you? It leaves you with the one and only thing you can control, your own internal process of healing and fighting for your own clarity. And this is so important to understand. We have this tendency to judge ourselves for feeling confused, for going back and forth on a decision. But real growth is never a neat, straight line. That feeling of chaos, that's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign that you are actively rebuilding your world from the ground up. It's the sound of construction. So what does this shift actually look like? It means you radically change your focus. You stop trying to be a detective looking for proof of his change, and you start becoming an architect for your own peace. You start defining what your principles, like integrity and emotional safety, look like in real everyday actions. The goal isn't to fix him anymore. The goal is to measure your own journey toward that internal peace, that sukoon. Other people will have their own equation for you. They'll say, you need to study, get financially independent, and then you can make a decision. But that's their formula. It might not be yours. Your true path probably looks a lot different. It's about focusing on your own thinking to get to a place of emotional stability, because that's what will empower you to make a clear decision from a place of real strength. And hey, just a quick moment here. If any of this is resonating with you, if it's helping you see things in a new way, we would be so grateful if you take a second to subscribe and like. It really does help support what we're doing. So, how do you actually apply all this to your own life? Well, we're not going to end with a simple answer because there isn't one. Instead, we want to give you the tools to find your own. And honestly, the most powerful tool you have is learning to ask yourself the right questions. So, instead of trying to read his mind, let's get really practical. What does honesty actually look like to you in day-to-day life? What are the specific, observable behaviors that make you feel safe and build trust? You need to define that for yourself. Now, this is a moment to be really honest with yourself. Are you giving yourself a hard time for not having a clean, simple answer right now? This is a reminder to give yourself some grace, to allow yourself to be confused, to go back and forth, and to see it as just a necessary part of a really, really hard journey. This one is huge. This is about releasing a burden that was never, ever yours to carry in the first place. It frees you from that exhausting job of being a guard. It's a reminder that every single adult is responsible for their own choices, for their own character. He is responsible for his. And finally, let's cut through all the noise. After everything is said and done, what is the one foundational value that you truly need in a relationship to feel that deep sense of inner peace, that sukoon? Getting crystal clear on this, that becomes your compass. That's your true north. So let's just recap the big ideas here. Real power doesn't come from trying to control or verify what's going on inside someone else's head. It comes from taking control of your own. That means you shift your focus from his behavior to your own principles. And you move from a goal of trying to fix him to a goal of finding their own peace. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. We really hope these frameworks give you a new way to think through these incredibly tough challenges, and most importantly, hope you find your own path to clarity.